If there's only one stop, it should be hard to miss, right? Well, it depends on how much Bordeaux you've had.
You're listening to Travel FOMO, a podcast for people self-diagnosed with wanderlust.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Travel FOMO podcast. My name is Jamin Houghton, and I am here with my red wine enthusiast and wife, Hilarie.
Oh, yeah. I do love red wine, don't I?
You're a big red wine fan.
Yeah. I mean, I like wine in general, but I always pick red wine.
Had you had much Bordeaux prior to us planning to go to Bordeaux? I know that, like, as we were planning the trip, we had a couple bottles, but do you recall if it's something that you would have selected prior to that?
I don't know. I think I probably would have picked I was always picking Cabernets or blends, red blends, or so no, I could go on and on, but
well, and as we learned on this trip, Bordeaux is kind of a blend of Cab and Merlot. So if you do like red blends, you probably would like.
Well, yes,
Bordeaux.
That's true.
So, but we didn't know that prior to this.
We did not. We learned a lot.
Lots of good stuff that we discovered on our time in Bordeaux. We got there in a very frustrating way.
Let's just start this podcast out the way all of them do, with travel woes, because that seems to be a theme in Europe for us.
Yes. So we did the best that we could to plan everything out for our trip and make sure that things would run as smoothly as possible. But one of the things that I failed to research was holidays in foreign countries.
Yeah.
Which I would definitely recommend that you do. Because we were caught off guard a couple times. Easter weekend, we were traveling while we were in the UK, and there was bank holidays associated with that we weren't aware of. It didn't really affect us too much there, but here in France, they celebrate Ascension Day. And with Ascension Day, that means fewer trains, but it also means a lot of people being off work. It's a bank holiday, and so a lot of people traveling.
Yeah. Wow. And the trains are really impacted.
Yes. Yeah. So the train system is really overtaxed on holidays. And we had the Eurail pass, which was great, which we used a lot. But a lot of the trains that we need to take in France required seat reservations. And we kind of were under the impression that they would be fairly easy to get. And there was lots of trains, so it didn't seem like it'd really be an issue. But we went to the train station and we're like, hey, tomorrow we need to go from Lyon to Bordeaux.
Yeah.
It's only a few hour train ride.
And we're doing it in advance.
Yeah.
We're not standing there an hour or two before. So I'm thinking we're really prepared.
Yeah. We're a day early. We're good. Just print us out some seat reservations and we're good to go. And the guy nearly laughs.
Yes, he did. I think he might have.
Yeah.
He was kind of chuckling no, that.
Yeah. He's funny. No, you won't be able to go. And we're like, oh, that's not really an option for us. We have to go. And fortunately, he was super nice.
So kind.
Very, very helpful.
As everyone in Lyon was.
Yes. As everyone in Lyon treated us very, very well. But he helped us. And finally, last ditch effort, found us a train that left very late in the afternoon and had to go up to Paris, basically, and then down to Bordeaux. So what was going to be a 2.5, 3 hour train ride turned into a 7 hour train ride starting in the afternoon.
Yeah. And we didn't get to sit by each other for part of it.
That's right. Yeah.
It was actually multiple trains. It was all these connections and he made it happen. That was amazing.
He used his magic to figure out a way to get us there. But that meant that we arrived in Bordeaux really late at night. It was 10:30 at night. I think it was kind of the last train coming in.
And was that on Ascension Day? You
Yes.
remember? Okay. So, and real quickly, would you tell people what Ascension Day is? Because I didn't know what it was.
Yes. So Ascension Day marks the holiday of when Jesus, after Easter, like Jesus dies, is buried, and then on Easter, he comes back from the grave and he spends 40 days on earth with his disciples before he ascends to heaven. And so 40 days after Easter is Ascension Day, and not something that gets celebrated in the U.S. Or even acknowledged, but is celebrated, at least in France. I don't know about the rest of Europe, but it did impact France.
We were in so many different countries that it was like really hard to always be thinking about holidays in every different country you were in.
Right.
And this was a national holiday. It was just, a surprise.
Yeah. But we got there really late at night and walked. It was about 1.5 miles to our Airbnb from the train station.
It was dark. It was so late.
Yeah. And which 1.5 miles, like, especially in like a city in Europe, is really kind of pleasant a lot of times. But when you're really tired and it's late at night
and it's dark, you can't see how nice this place may or may not be.
Yeah, and everything's dark, then it just really is not setting you up for success. But we found like one of the only places open to eat was a kebab place, and we were like, well, I mean, it is what it is. Like, we're gonna have to do it. It's
not
just
very
like
French,
doner kebab, but okay, we're having it, and it was awesome.
Yeah, like it was so good, actually. Like, we were both blown away. Yeah,
I think it was our best kebab experience of our trip in Europe.
Well, but you had a burger, right?
I did get a burger,
and I got a kebab. But either way, we were both very, very pleased.
Yeah,
and it was just this random hole in the wall place on this busy street.
Yeah, and they barely spoke English, but they were super nice.
Yeah.
And we were the only people in there. Yeah. I think they were about to close up, and they took care of us. We got our food to go, and we brought it back to our Airbnb, and it ended up being an awesome meal because it was really good, but also because we were super tired.
Exactly. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, I wonder how much us being tired and hungry plays into how good it was. But nonetheless, we were pleased.
Yeah.
In Bordeaux, we started having a lot, some really great food experiences. And that continued on to some of the other places that we went to. But it was kind of one of those things where it's like the further south, the more we really liked the food, for sure.
Yes, I agree with that for sure. And what did you think of Bordeaux overall, kind of as once we got there and got to sleep and got to wake up and actually experience the city?
Yeah.
Like, what kind of surprised you about Bordeaux?
Well, I really liked how it was really lighthearted and pretty fun. Like, everyone, it was very social, like a huge social scene wherever you would go, even late at night. You know, it was like 11 o'clock at night, and we're walking. Well, no. Yeah, it was really late when we were getting our food that night. And there were tons of people out still.
Yeah.
And so it was very social. It was really relaxed. It did not feel at all pretentious. And I expected a city where wine is the thing it's known for. I expected it to be a little pretentious, a little, high grade, and just, and it was high grade. That's not the best word, but I just expected it to be a little bit,
kind of elitist.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, a little elitist. And it just felt like one of Europe's funnest cities.
Yeah.
Most fun.
It had great environment. The weather was awesome while we were there. Really cool. And like you said, I too thought, man, we're probably going to run into some snooty people here. I don't know much about, I like red wine and I like wine in general, but I don't know much about it. Like, I'm the furthest thing from a sommelier there is. And I kind of thought that everyone there would be discussing tannins and things like that, and I would just be lost. But it wasn't. It was just a really fun fun city.
Yeah. And you could really tell that right off the bat, including that morning, that first morning, we went up and we got up and went on a run.
Mhm.
I was like so proud of us because we were really tired at that point, maybe even a little delirious.
Yeah.
But
And I think it helped me anyway that we had planned out our running routes prior to taking the trip.
Yeah.
Like we had really researched and said, okay, like where would be the best places to run? And so I was looking forward to the runs.
Yeah.
And I think if we had just been like, oh, we'll just get up and go for a run and not really know where, I don't think I'd have done like half of them.
Well, and you kept me really motivated because you knew you had done such a nice job of planning those routes, and you could tell me like I'd be like, okay, so what's tomorrow's morning run? And you would be able to say how long we were going to go and all of the cool things we were going to see on that route. And it really had an impact on me because then I was like, well, I don't want to miss seeing those things. And this might be our only opportunity. So let's do this. And it really was motivating.
Yeah. And we were like, where we stayed was perfect because we were able to hop right on Rue St. Catherine, which is the longest pedestrian street in all of Europe.
Crazy long.
Yeah. And it's just this like really long, super straight street. And we stayed right off of it. And that's kind of how our run started, was running down it, which was a really cool experience, especially early in the morning. Nobody's really out.
Yeah.
And you kind of have this whole street to yourself. And
yeah.
we ran by the palace along the river, through some great gardens and things like that. It's on our YouTube video. So if you want to kind of see what we're talking about, go check it out.
Well, and one thing that kind of caught us off guard, and we were starting to see more and more of it, is not all parks are unlocked.
Right.
All night long.
Yeah.
So we were thinking we're going to wake up bright and early and we're going to run through this amazing park, but it was actually locked. And so we had to run past it at first and then run to the palace and stuff and come back to that park. And we went ahead and fit it in anyway.
Yeah.
And we didn't really know if we should do that, if we had the time to do it. But I'm so glad we did because it was beautiful. It was lovely.
It really was. Yeah. The parks in Europe are amazing. They're incredible. I was blown away at how you expect in like London and Paris to have beautiful parks, but in every city that we stopped in, like just beautiful parks everywhere and just awesome running. I was glad that we circled back to that one too.
Well, and it opened a lot later than I thought too.
Yeah, it didn't open till like 8.
That's like pretty late in the morning, in my opinion, if you wanted to run through it.
Check that out, especially as we got into the south of France and into Italy. We ran into this kind of more and more where parks would be closed until a certain point. So if you are going to run through a park, check out and see what time it opens.
Yeah. That's really good advice for travelers for sure.
Yeah.
But then we went on to the area near Bordeaux where so many of the wineries are.
Yes.
It was awesome. And it was called, we didn't even know it when we started planning all of this, but Saint Emilion is this little village that we ended up going to. And it's a UNESCO World Heritage site.
Of course.
You guys are not surprised to hear us say that. We keep getting drawn to these things, even though that's not really what we're looking for. It's just such an incredible stamp of approval, I feel like, and just confirms that we're on the right track to see the things that the rest of the world also deems as really important.
Right.
So that's always encouraging. But it turned out to be so much cheaper than we expected. Because we were sitting in Lyon planning our next steps in Bordeaux, and we were looking at TripAdvisor and all these different excursions that you could do from the city of Bordeaux to these wineries, and they kept going to Saint Emilion. And we were like, well, what if we just went to Saint Emilion ourselves? Like maybe we could just hop on a train and do it ourselves.
Yep.
And lo and behold, it was completely covered by the Eurail pass. I don't even know if we needed reservations.
We didn't.
It was considered the metro area almost, or something like that. So it didn't actually require reservations, which was a big bonus too, which meant we could hop on any train at any time, which was really good. And so yeah, we just hopped a train, went out there. It was like a 20-minute train ride, something like that.
Yep.
And then there's all these vineyards. So you get off of this train and you start walking and you feel like you're out in a field. Like you feel like you're out in the country.
Yeah.
I honestly was like, I don't know. I don't really know if this is like, I see these vineyards, so it's not a bad place to be, but I don't feel equipped. Like I just didn't know what to expect. And you start looking around and you realize that everyone else getting off this train, I mean, you just start taking pictures right away because you are basically standing in vineyards right off of the bat. And then we kind of made our way up to the little village, which then you could kind of see, oh, okay, I see it up on this hill. It's incredibly old and so like well maintained.
Yes.
And throughout all the years, oh man, it was those I would say the first hour there was really cool. Like we just kept taking pictures and filming video, and it just felt really special. I couldn't believe we were there.
Yeah, I thought it was just incredible, especially for something that I hadn't really heard of before.
Yeah.
And we walked in. You walk through the city, and it's just all these old, beautiful buildings, so well preserved, and it's just, you're just stepping back in time.
Yeah.
And it's all surrounded by all these vineyards.
Yeah. And the terrain is surprisingly hilly in town, which kind of caught me off guard because it is hilly on the hill, on the countryside too, but the town itself had like tons of stairs and stuff like that. So that's something to keep in mind if you have mobility issues or something like that, but it's well worth it. And I didn't do all the research around like, what would you do if you couldn't walk all these steps? But because there's roads and other things that you can walk along. It's a small town, so it's easy to get around from that perspective. But one of the things that really stood out to us too was that church. You remember that church? Mm-hmm. It was so interesting. We just happened to, walk into this church, and we walk in and we hear this music that sounds like Beetlejuice, something like out of some kind of like vampire movie, or like, you've got these dark organs playing this really dark tune. I was like, this is surreal. I was like, this is just surreal because of the music that they're playing alone and how it was all lit with candles and everything. Yeah. And it just had this vibe that was like kind of like this creepy vibe. But also on display was this these outdoor walls, kind of like in a courtyard area, these walls that were done with modern art. So modern paint, but then also some 3D art pieces coming out of the wall, a lot of metallic paint, and it was super colorful. We filmed it. You guys can see it in our video, but honestly, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, it doesn't do it justice. It was so vibrant. And I felt like, even when I look back at the video, I'm like, oh, that doesn't do it justice. It was so cool.
It really was. And it stood out so much from other stuff we'd seen.
Yeah, it really did.
You see a lot of art and you see a lot of stuff. And at some point, you almost kind of become numb to like the statues and stuff like this. But this was done in such a way that it was... it just like jolted you loose from that. And it was like, wow, this is different.
Yeah. And so colorful and happy.
Yeah.
I would say. And like a lot of church art is not necessarily vibrant and colorful and happy feeling. And so I loved that. It brought that to the table, which is also, I think, so much of what Christianity, our religion, what it does for me is it is the root of this happiness. And it makes me sad sometimes that the houses of worship don't necessarily always convey that. They do convey a lot of reverence though. And that's important too. But
Yeah.
Interesting, huh?
Yeah. Very interesting. And once we kind of walked around the city a little bit and stuff, it was time for our tour. We had booked a tour directly with Château Villemaurine, and it was significantly cheaper than us having to have bought something through TripAdvisor, something from Bordeaux that included transportation. So saved all that money on the train and got to take the same exact tour that everyone else was taking. And this was a vineyard like really close to town. And they did an amazing job walking us through what Bordeaux is. So we found out that their particular blend is 80% Merlot, 20% Cabernet. They have like different sections of their vineyards are the different grapes. And so they have this blend, and they talked us through how they will age the vines out. And at some point, the vines aren't any good anymore. Like their last couple of years is when they're at their best. And then it's time to be taken out, and you start that section of the field over again. They're not allowed to irrigate. So it's all based on weather and natural rain.
That was fascinating to me.
Yeah.
That they can't irrigate. Like it's against the law, right?
Yeah.
Wow. So crazy.
But Château Villemaurine typically produces around 100 barrels of wine a year, and which in a barrel of wine is like 300 bottles. And so not a lot.
I know. That surprised me too. I was like, oh, you're not like this big factory. Like,
yeah. And it was just fascinating them walking us through the store. They did tell us that the weather was great in 2016. So if you see a Bordeaux wine from 2016, it's a really good wine. Chances are that you would really like it if you enjoy Bordeaux. So
I love that. I was like, ooh, that's a good little gem of information.
I thought that stuff was just so fascinating. And their vineyards are on these hills, but they're limestone hills, and the limestone really helps the taste of the wine and things like that. But also underneath the vineyards are the cellars, and it used to be these quarries where they would take this limestone and cut it out in chunks to build Bordeaux and to build Paris and to build these other huge cities around. They were supplying the limestone for it, and that's what kind of created this perfect place for these vineyards to be, because directly under the fields where all the vines are these massive cellars where they age the wine. They put it into, they process it, put it in these barrels, and then put it down in these cellars to age it. And they're the perfect temperature, the perfect moisture. And we actually got to go down in the cellars. They told us all about it. That was really cool for me. Less so for you.
I really struggled with it, which is so surprising because I usually love to get creeped out. And in this instance, I honestly got too creeped out and I got a little claustrophobic. And these tunnels that they have down there, these cellars are huge, and they're actually very long tunnels, and they go on for quite a ways. So they go on for like miles, and it's kind of it became a thing that over time the city started to get a little concerned that all those passageways would cave in, because there was just, I mean, they dug out a lot. Like the ceilings were sometimes the ceilings were like 3 stories. Like they were tall.
Yeah, and it was incredible too that they would dig out in like sections. So there would be like a section, then almost like a building. There would be like a floor, and then below that they would have dug out another section.
True, yeah.
And I thought that was really interesting that there were like levels of these cellars down there.
Which also means there wasn't a lot of earth there to hold up the rest of the earth. But that was really kind of what started to freak me out, is this lady's describing, the danger that existed and how they started to recognize that. And all of a sudden, I just couldn't breathe very well. And I was like, I was scared. I don't know how else to say it, but all of a sudden I was just like, I think I need to leave. Like, and I was just about to tell you, like, I think I might need to head out. And it was very dark, and I would have had to use my phone to get out as a flashlight. Like, it was like very dark, and I was surprised they didn't give us more of a warning even of how unsteady your foot would be, because there's just tons of rocks and stones and stuff. So it's a very uneven, it's not like this great paved, walkway for you. It's very rustic. And I was literally to the point where I was like, I think I need to walk away, because this lady's stories, I just feel like it's going to cave in on me. And it's just so funny, because that's so not me. And we talk about how you get claustrophobic being in elevators and stuff like that. And I always think it's so funny. And then here I was going, oh my gosh, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. We got to go. And I just like have a little bit more sympathy, I think, now for the people who really struggle with being claustrophobic, because I was like, wow, that was not fun.
Well, it was so uncharacteristic for you.
It really was.
Like you said, it doesn't really happen to you. And so I was like kind of taken off guard that it was freaking you out.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't understand at first, like what was going on.
What's the problem here?
But yeah, so after that, you were able to calm your nerves because we did a wine tasting.
It just really helps.
But we were able to taste some wine. We met some great people on that tour. It was a lot of fun, having conversations with people. And then we went and grabbed a sandwich at a little cafe and walked back to these ruins that looked like they were from like Rome.
Mm-hmm.
And just sat on this park bench and ate our sandwiches. Like, the weather was beautiful and the surrounding was incredible. So many times we just had sandwiches, whether we bought them somewhere or made them on our own, like sitting somewhere in Europe, eating a sandwich, just surrounded by amazingness is like one of the big takeaways from the entire trip for me.
Yeah. Like moments that stand out in your mind. And you're like, I was just eating a sandwich. Like, I wasn't, nothing crazy amazing.
Right.
But my view was so incredible that I'll never forget that moment.
Is there something you know about that revolutionizes the way you travel? Can it solve problems and help people around the roadblocks on their adventures? Is it just plain cool? If you have a product like that, we would love to tell people about it. Get in contact with us, and maybe next time we'll be talking about your product right now.
Well, and you know what will stick with me is that bachelor group that we saw walking around. It was like, I think it must have been some kind of like stag party or bachelor party or something, but it was a group of 20 guys.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a pretty big group, and they were all dressed up like monks. So they all had and I realize this might be disrespectful, to monks and some things like that, but it was incredibly funny because they were behaving exactly the opposite as you would expect from monks, which was so funny. And it just looked like what a brilliant idea. People are always coming up with fun and creative ways to go out and celebrate like that. And I just thought that was really funny to see a giant group of them tromping around, and they were just having a great time and making everybody laugh. And anyway, that was good times.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. And after that, we went and took the wine train. So it's not actually a train. It's like a series of golf cart cars almost. But if you go watch the YouTube video, you'll see what we mean. But they do a little tour there, and it's not something that we had planned out. We were just like, oh, that looks interesting. That looks like that'd be fun. Let's go get tickets. And so we did. And it takes you kind of through all the vineyards. There's a pre-recorded kind of little deal, and they give you some headphones, and you can select your language, and it tells you about all of the vineyards that you pass along the way. And if you buy up, they're you stop at the monolithic cellars and take a tour there. They show you in the cellars. You do a wine tasting there. And so we did that. The only problem was the train stopped and they told everybody who had like the special tickets to get off, but we didn't think that it was our stop.
Yeah.
So,
Well, what happened was, I remember pretty clearly. What happened was when we were buying the tickets and they were telling us, okay, when the stop comes, you're going to get off at the castle.
right.
And it sounded like they said the word castle. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm just waiting to get to the castle. And I didn't think much more about it.
Yeah.
And then we end up at some kind of winery, basically, some chateau. And we're like, oh, this isn't us. We're getting off at the castle.
Right. Yeah. We thought that there were multiple stops. There were not.
I've been to too many castles. I think I just
We're just,
assumed I get to go to another castle.
Yeah, like, oh, I only do castle. But we failed to get off at that stop, which meant that we had to stay on the train all the way back around to the very beginning. We explained to them that we're buffoons and we did not get off at the stop. And they were kind enough to let us on the next train that went back out.
Yeah.
So we got to do it again for the second time. This time we did get off at the stop and we got to see Chateau Rochebelle.
Mm-hmm.
They're a little bit larger. I think they do, I think it was like 18,000 bottles of wine, something like that.
Yeah.
And we got to have some really good wine there as well. They took us down in the monolithic cellars and we saw like just stacks of bottles of wine, and kind of got to walk through a little more of the wine process again. Like, it was really cool. I would recommend like the train ride. It was fun to get to see all the vineyards up close and get a little explanation of what they were and where they were.
It's definitely worth it to see all the different vineyards, and especially if it's a nice day, because it's kind of open air. This little train is like an open air train, and it's very family friendly. So if you've got little kids with you, they could enjoy the train. And so it's kind of a fun way to see the countryside. I liked that a lot.
Yeah.
So going twice wasn't the worst thing in the world, but I did feel kind of silly to have to tell them, like, yeah, remember that one stop? We missed it.
Yeah. The one place where we could have got off, we didn't do it. So we need to go back again.
Exactly. And then after that train ride, we went on back to the real train, basically.
Yes.
That wrapped up the day for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah. And using the Euro Pass came in handy again, because like we didn't have a specific train that we had to catch or not catch.
Yeah.
The train was packed.
So packed.
Full of people.
That was crazy. There were so many people. You honestly didn't know if you were going to get to catch the train or not. Like, you kind of had to like be a little more assertive.
Yes. Yeah. You had to. It was game time. You had to get aggressive when it came time to get on that
which I feel like
train.
you're really good at. And I'm always like, I'm sorry. No, you first. Yay.
Yeah. No, I remember specifically telling you, like, hey, we've got to be ready. And when these train doors open, like, we got to get on this train.
Right.
But,
which is still doesn't soak in with me sometimes. Like, I'm ready. I've been standing here for 15 minutes. I'm ready. But being assertive is not the same as being ready.
That's true. We made it back to Bordeaux, though, and this was our only day, because we were only staying 2 nights. We came in super late, and so we knew like this was really our only chance to see Bordeaux was like right now.
Yeah.
And we walked around the city. We saw the Basilica of Saint Michael. It was really cool. There's some like modern stained glass in there that was different than a lot of other places.
It's another UNESCO World Heritage site.
Yes, yeah, was so cool. We went and had charcuterie board for dinner with some more Bordeaux wine. Now that we were very well educated about the Bordeaux wine,
That was really good too. Like we loved it.
Yeah.
And it was the tiniest little hole in the wall place.
Yes.
And they packed people in there. Like we all were sitting at little bar top, stools and stuff. And it was great though.
Yeah. And that guy was super nice.
Mm-hmm.
Again, everything was in French,
Yeah.
but he spoke English.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were able to order a little bit better than I feel like we did in Lyon, because he was like, if you like this and this and this, then you'll like these things. And we ordered a couple appetizers and a charcuterie board, and it was all awesome.
It was all, everything. We ate it all.
Yeah.
There was nothing left.
Yeah.
It was really good.
It was so good. And walked around the city, so fun. Like everybody's just out again, like having dinner, having a good time, like drinking wine together.
It was so loud and vibrant and lively.
Yes.
Like everyone was like, it's like everyone decided we eat outside. It's a beautiful day. We all just eat outside. And the patios would be massive. I know in a lot of Europe, you see tiny little patios and, outside the restaurants along the street. In this case, we walked along the road at one point and the patios were monstrous, like way bigger than the restaurant would be, like maybe like 5 times the size of the restaurant.
Yeah.
And they would be packed. Everyone was outside. It was really cool.
I remember walking into like a big square and it just being full of people. And most of that was like tables where people were having dinner or having drinks, and you could hear it from around the corner.
Yeah.
Just the buzz of the people. And it was such beautiful weather. Getting to walk around was incredible.
Yeah.
And we stopped and had popsicles at Pico Loco.
Yeah. And that was on that famous pedestrian street, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It was on that street.
Tons of shopping. I mean, it was like people were riding a skateboard like straight down this like crazy long pedestrian road. And like and it was just tons of people just walking. It was, I really, it's just so fun. It's just such a fun environment.
Yeah.
And those popsicles, I would do that. Like, I would do that every night. They were so good. And I think they called like, it was called Pico Loco, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I had like a mango dipped popsicle, like dipped in dark chocolate, which is like amazing.
Yeah.
And you had a really good one.
I had it was basically an ice cream, like, so a popsicle, but like made of ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
It was chocolate ice cream. It had salted caramel in the middle, and I had it dipped in chocolate, and it like was incredible.
Yeah.
Really good.
And the guy that worked there was so nice. And he was telling us all about it. And we actually, when we lived in Dallas, there's one called Piccolo Pops, I believe. And it's the same, it's basically the same concept.
Right.
It's these Spanish popsicles that you can dip and decorate however you want. So good. And we actually ended up seeing another Pico Loco in our next destination, which was San Sebastian, Spain. And this guy had been telling us, like, yes, we have some other places. The concept started in Spain. And then we got to see more of his restaurants. It was cool.
Yeah, it was cool. Another really great interaction with someone in France.
Yeah, true.
Like
yeah.
all of Bordeaux was super nice, a lot like Lyon. If you listen to us talk about Lyon, everyone was great there. And we weren't in Bordeaux as long, but all of our interactions in Bordeaux were really great too.
Yeah. Like if you find France intimidating, then you should really go back and listen to Lyon as well, that Lyon episode, because we've had such great experiences at both of those places. We also, Strasbourg, France was a place that we loved as well.
Yeah.
And it just felt down to earth. It felt like just not as intimidating is the best way to put it. But
I wish that we had spent more time.
Oh, for sure.
In Bordeaux. Like Lyon and Bordeaux are two that I look back on of before we went, we knew we wanted to go. We were going to go to Lyon for the food. We're going to go to Bordeaux for the wine. But we didn't know how much we would like it.
Yeah.
And so we didn't schedule much time there. And like, man, they were great.
Yeah. They really were. It's so fun to like discover places that you don't know you're going to love. And then you get there and you're like, wow, I had no idea. I had no idea that this would be my vibe. And I just wanted to keep walking around. I wanted to like have a really late night. I was like, let's just stay up and go out. This is great. But we were tired and old, so.
Yeah, we were pretty tired from the day before, and we had to take a bus the next day to another place that we hadn't been, didn't know a lot about, but ended up being maybe your favorite stop on the whole trip.
I mean, it's so hard with Switzerland. I love Switzerland.
Mm-hmm.
But San Sebastian, I love Switzerland, but I also love like Greece. But San Sebastian, Spain is up next. And wowza. Did not know hardly anything about it.
Yeah.
And we literally got off the bus and we're just like, this is incredible. Like, this is so great. This is so great. This is so great. We just could not stop.
Yeah. I feel like, especially like right after we got back and even later on the trip as we would meet people, when someone would ask, where should I go? I feel like San Sebastian always came up.
Yeah.
Such a cool spot. We can't wait to tell you about it. So make sure that you're subscribed from wherever you listen so that you will get the notification when San Sebastian drops next week, because not only is it an amazing place that we want to tell you all about, but it's the start of a new season.
That's right. It's going to be our Mediterranean Europe season. So it's getting into Spain, a little bit deeper into southern France, a lot of us being along the coast.
Yeah. Ditching the coats, putting on the shorts, and headed to see some amazing parts of Europe.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I'm so excited. This is like, it just kept getting better and better. For me, especially because I like warm weather. And so that's kind of like how things were trending, as us getting down into the southern warmer climates. And then also the fact that summer was upon us.
Yeah.
So, oh my goodness, we have so many amazing things to share with you guys in the upcoming episodes. So be sure to check us out on YouTube. You can find the video from Bordeaux and see the wineries that we were talking about and some of this UNESCO World Heritage stuff that we mentioned. And then you'll also see us miss that little train. Well, no, we didn't miss the train. We just missed our stop on the train. I'm so embarrassed.
Stayed on the train too long. You can check all that out. You can also find us on social media, Instagram and TikTok. We're pretty active there. It's Facebook as well.
Yeah.
It's a good way to connect with us. If you have something that you want to share with us, those are good ways to do it. Let us know if there's places that you've been that you wish you'd have stayed longer.
Oh, yeah.
Because Bordeaux was definitely that for us. We wish we'd been there longer. So what places have you been that you're like, man, I should have scheduled more time here?
Yeah.
We want to know about it, mainly because we want to steal your ideas and go there.
Definitely want to steal your ideas. So give us all your ideas, guys. Okay, guys, don't forget that life is short.
Wander well.